All right. Boy, that we covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah, we did.
We say that every week, but we did cover a lot of ground. So yeah, I just saw this. I saw this trailer yesterday, and it was a super, like, you know how today we seem to have teaser trailers that tease the trailer. That tease the movie?
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah,
that's what I saw about it. It took me by surprise because Lucille Ball was a real legend, you know, in our early part of our lifetime, a real groundbreaking legend. And it just occurred to me that there's never been a movie about her that I know of.
No, same.
There is now, and it's called Being the Ricardos, and it's about Lucille Ball and Ricky Ricardo, who's actually played by her husband. What's his real name? I forget.
You would know it if Nicole Kidman's husband.
No, Lucille Ball. She was actually she played Lucy.
Right.
Lucille Ball.
Oh.
What was her
name?
Ricky.
Ricky.
It's not his real name.
Yeah.
You would know his
Ricardo.
real name.
Right. Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
But anyway,
Arnaz.
Yes, that's it. Arnaz. You would know. Anyways, this is a movie about them and her rise to fame and all that. And she's played by Nicole Kidman, and they just show a couple seconds of her, and she looks exactly like her. And
I could see that.
Yeah, and I think it's a brave movie choice for Nicole Kidman.
I think that's really cool.
You
actually,
could really fall on your face with that one. You know,
on the boy, you'd have to be multifaceted as an actress in order to get this, because it's interesting. I've been watching on the Turner Classic Movie Channel, which I love Turner Classic Movies. I love those old movies, and they've been doing this thing on Lucille Ball, and actually Ben Mankiewicz has a podcast that he's doing just particularly on Lucille Ball lately. I haven't seen that, but I saw some movies with Lucille Ball in them from back in the 30s and the early 40s, and it's really interesting to see her in these movies because you almost won't recognize her.
Wow. She, we forget how pretty she was.
She's beautiful.
Because she was funny first, as we knew it.
Well, the interesting thing is that when she came onto the scene, she was really mentored by some pretty famous people. And she really didn't get into the comedy thing until the 50s. She was doing some dramatic roles. They called her the queen of the B movie at the time.
I didn't know any of this.
I didn't either. She's in a lot of different movies. Most of them, she's not playing the main role. She's always very pretty. She acts nothing like the Lucille Ball character whatsoever. She's usually very sophisticated, really well dressed. Her hair isn't the way that she has it on that show. She has it down. This is where you don't even recognize her. I saw her in a movie with the Marx Brothers. Actually, it was a comedy, and but she wasn't. She
played the straight
person. Okay. Exactly. She was like a business person that was actually helping to run their business and everything. It was so surreal. Was seeing that movie, but I'd seen another movie just before that. I caught the end of it, and Anne Marie and I were watching it, and this character comes out. She's getting married, and she's how glamorous these women were in the 30s and the 40s, and she's coming down the stairs, and Anne Marie goes, "Do you know who that is?" And I'm like, "No." And then she speaks, and I still didn't know. And then like about 30 seconds later, it dawned on me that was Lucille Ball's voice, but I didn't even recognize her.
Wow.
Anyway, in between the movies, Ben Mankiewicz is talking about her and how she didn't know she had this comedy thing, and but it was the live audience thing for TV that she started to discover that she had this. So when she started doing TV, it was that instant feedback that she would get that you don't get in the movies, where she started to really develop this amazing skill for comedy that she had. And really, when you take a look, I love those old Lucille Ball shows. I didn't like the ones that they did afterwards, but the early ones that she did were really funny, and she's such a great actress on those shows. I love them.
I think she must be the ham type, that she got energized and it kind of addicted to that live audience.
My understanding too is that that really was not her personality, and that she was she was very to herself. I also her and Arnaz bought a house that's only a few miles down the road from ours. I don't know if it's there anymore in Chatsworth. Okay. And they had a big horse farm out there and everything. At the time, this was way out in the country. Now you've seen where we live now. It's very urban now, but it was way out there. They'd have these big parties and stuff like that. I also heard that Desi Arnaz was not very faithful to her. He was quite a womanizer.
I didn't know that. Well, I have to say that like I said, I didn't know any of this. And if this movie actually is very good, I think it will be if Nicole Kidman is attached to it. I think she has a good team around her that would let her do a bad movie. Yeah. But I would really like to see it because me too. I don't know any of this. And I got to tell you, man, as you talk about, like, Hollywood in the 30s, 40s, 50s would be so cool to experience that,
Yeah.
When it was kind of more young and innocent and I bet it was never
glamorous.
No, I don't think it was innocent. Never innocent.
No, I don't think it was either. Because you hear the stories. It seems like there was, I don't know if it was all a facade. I'll tell you what, Barry, my experience with Hollywood, I'll never forget the first time I went there. Anne Marie had been there before me, and my kids were living there. Mm-hmm. And we flew to Los Angeles, and Anne Marie was driving me there, and we're looking at a pretty seedy looking area. And she goes, "Oh, by the way, we're in Hollywood." And I'm like, "What? This is Hollywood?"
Yeah.
I thought it was like the Beverly Hillbillies, where, there's Mr. Drysdale's house over there. It wasn't like that at all. I'm sure there's great houses on the hills, but when you get into Hollywood, I mean, it's
Skid Row and everything.
It really is terrible.
And there. Who is it that I heard on a podcast, probably a Rogan podcast, but somebody in the know was talking about Los Angeles and their homeless crisis. Well, they spend so much money on it that so many people are making money off of supposedly working for this homeless problem. It's just a money grabbing machine.
It is.
And he said that there's no way possible to rectify the situation.
I don't know how they're going to do it.
They're not going to. It's too big of an industry. It's an actual industry.
It is, and what they've done is they've passed all of these laws or bills that to help with the homeless problem, and California falls for it every single time.
Right.
But it's like ever since I've been here, my taxes have done nothing but gone up.
Sure.
And they keep passing these things, and they do the whole, they make you feel really bad and all that kind of. It's a terrible thing.
Of course it is.
But I can't believe the bill passes and it gets worse every time, and we hear excuse after excuse after excuse, and you start to, it finally dawns on you that this is a business. They're bilking us here, and Barry,
but everybody falls for it. How is that possible?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that they're pulling on people's heartstrings because they just feel bad. And, I'm seeing the same thing in Washington with this $3.5 trillion human infrastructure bill. And you start to take a look at what's in there, and it's like, this is another one of those. What is in there? That's the thing, is
most people have no idea.
Right. And here, what it is it's a feeding frenzy. It's just like, sharks are feeding on the poor innocent fish that just, happen to go into, we thought this is where all the food. Nope, you're the food. And this is what seems to be happening here in Washington. Barry, I found out that one of the things inside of this bill is provision for 100 and some thousand new employees for the IRS to monitor the $600 thing at the banks and everything.
Fleece the common person even more.
This is absolutely crazy when you take a look at you're proposing a $3.5 trillion thing, and at the same time inside of it is a way to somehow extract more money from us, and yet you're saying that oh, this thing it's really going to cost zero because it's already paid for.
That's a flat out lie. And I heard a clip of Bernie Sanders trying to sell this like a used car salesman. He goes, well, it was 6 trillion. The least we could do is 3.5 trillion. That again is playing games with this trillion.
It really is.
I hate that.
Bernie Sanders put an op-ed out in West Virginia's main paper, which is Joe Manchin's territory there. And I don't know if you've heard Pete Buttigieg lately and what he's saying. Okay, so here's a guy that's been on parental leave for 2 months.
Yes, and he's he's the head of travel or something.
Transportation. He's the infrastructure guy. He is he's in charge of infrastructure. He was the mayor of South Bend. He screwed up South Bend. The people there didn't like him. He had the actual population of South Bend is now about the amount of people that report up to him. He has no way of being able to control this during the worst infrastructure crisis in our history. He's been on paternal leave. He and his husband adopted twins. I guess they were premature. So yeah, that's a serious thing. But man, he was on what's the guy's name at CNN? Travis. I can't remember the guy's name. Anyhow, it was amazing because the guy from CNN was asking him some pretty hard questions, like, "Hey, why didn't you get a stand-in for you while you were on paternity leave?"
Right.
And he couldn't answer that.
He's a public servant, for God's sake.
He went in, exactly. And he went into, I took some calls during the time. So, I did do some work, but hey, here's the problem is that most of the infrastructure is held by private entities, and our $3.5 trillion bill is what's going to prevent anything like this from happening again, because really this is a matter of Joe Biden's plan working. Demand is up, and that's why this is happening. People have jobs, and you're hearing this over and over that they're using this failure to do another victory lap, because that's what they do. And they're saying that, look, there's over 100 huge ships that are outside of Long Beach and the Los Angeles harbor right now. I've seen them out there. As far as the eye can see, you're seeing these huge container port ships, and they're saying it's because America's economy is doing so well. And to protect us from this happening again, we got to pass this $3.5 trillion bill. And it's like, well, wait a second. This never happened before. Demand has been very high before. How come this didn't happen before? And when you really start to look at it, it's because of the plans that have been put out there that have prevented people from going back to work. They've incented people not to go back from work. Joe Biden's 24/7 plan that he proposed last week is a big sham, because okay, you open it up 24/7, maybe you get the people to work over at the harbor, at the docks, at the ports, but you don't have the trucks to take them over to the stores because these people have been put out of work. It's just a crazy thing that's happening here, and these people are the ones that keep saying we got to protect against misinformation, but they're the purveyors of misinformation.
Oh yeah. Well, they're also the same ones that say, "Oh, you guys are racist," while they're segregating everybody up into races.
I'm telling you.
Yeah. I did you seem to not have heard this, but kidnappers in Haiti demand $17 million to free this missionary group. So $1 million per person. A gang abducted 17 people associated with a Christian aid group. Just awful, including 5 children. Most of these being held are Americans. One is Canadian. So I was hoping that you knew about this, because I didn't read the whole story. And to me, they just brought up immediately, well, our American motto is at the national level is never negotiate with terrorists. So I wonder what they're going to do in this. Of course, we do behind the scenes. We'll not even with $1 billion in cash, Yeah.
I don't know what you would call the Taliban, but They seem to be terrorists to me, and they called the Biden administration says, well, they're very professional.
I know. Like, they've extorted trillions out of the taxpayers. So
and they've got hostages over there right now too. That's really what's happening. And we're talking about giving them aid money, but I think that's money that's being extorted from us right now. So this is a pretty crazy thing. Hey, Barry. Get this. So there's a poll out. Trump has higher favorability than Biden. God. Here's the thing is, as much crap that's out there about Trump from the media and just the Trump bashing, the Trump derangement syndrome, all that stuff. And Biden's got a less favorable rating than him. And here I don't, that's got to be a shock to the Biden administration when they've had all of this protection from the media all of this time. I think that's a dangerous thing for the country when you take a look at it. Personally, I mean, I'm a conservative, but I really don't think it would be good for the country to see another Trump administration in there.
I think it's horrible. It'd be horrible for the Republican Party. I think it'd tear the party apart.
I think it would be terrible just for the country in general, because what we saw during the Trump administration with our cities burning up and everything. I'm not saying that was all Trump's fault. I'm just saying that he seems to be the spark now. Like his name seems to be a swear word.
He's very divisive. As soon as he got in office, and look, I voted for him. But I literally felt like it was a vote against Hillary.
It was.
Yeah. And there was definitely a big part of me that was I'm just full disclosure, gleeful because the left hated him so much. And I was just, I'm still the far left. I despise the far left's policies and what they're trying to do to this country. And so to see somebody come in who was like Teflon, you can call him racist all day long. He doesn't care. I felt like the country needed that. But in the end, no, we didn't need that. We needed somebody that could work with the other side too. Somebody that was truly respectable and say, look, guys, we need your help here. We need to pull together and make this country great again for real.
I do agree that we need to have somebody like when Trump was elected, he wasn't from the swamp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like he's a guy from the outside. I think that we need a guy from the outside. I was listening to Jon Stewart the other day, and
he's been making sense lately. This is a guy that can talk to both sides of the aisle. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a guy that is, he makes sense, that he's got a lot of common sense. He just makes sense. And he's not a right guy or a left guy. He's just a common sense guy. That's the kind of guy that I feel like we need to have in there. It makes sense. That kind of reminds me of, he's really, his roots are comedy, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right.
He's on Comedy
with Chappelle.
Central.
Dave Chappelle, who I had mentioned before, he's not one of my favorite comedians at all, but he's talented. It's just because I don't get it the way other people get it. It's just me. It is. I mean, I respect him. He's a philosopher. He's very talented. And what he'll do is he'll get people like on the left all giddy, like he'll get them all fired up saying some of their rhetoric, and then pull the rug out from underneath of them with this punchline. And they're left sitting there going, I don't know what to make of this. It's a talent. It's really good. And Jon Stewart, what you mentioned there made me think of that.
Yeah. It's just interesting as we take a look at it. I don't think there's a lot of guys that could fit that role, but I think I got an eye out for somebody. There's got to be somebody that could come out.
I like the way you're thinking
and be that person. I was just thinking about another thing too that I heard is Dan Bongino.
What about Larry Elder though?
Okay, go with that. Larry Elder. What about him? Oh, you mean as a
presidential candidate?
Boy, okay. I love Larry Elder. I think he makes a lot of sense. it seems like he's a guy that could do that. And then at the same time, this could actually squash my whole theory because of what I saw happen to him here in California. I mean, they did
but it's because it's so far left. I'm talking about the whole country where
I would love to see him in there. I think he would be a great president, to be honest.
What were you going to say about Bongino?
Well, okay, this goes back to, I loved what I saw. So he has this Cumulus organization. He's on, that's the platform that he's got the Dan Bongino show on, which is wildly popular. And now Cumulus has done this whole COVID mandate. And many people have already been fired from the organization because they didn't take the vaccination. A lot of radio hosts. Now, Dan Bongino has taken, he's vaccinated. And he's saying he's had several people that have recently been fired on the show. And he's told Cumulus, look, you don't own me. And you're going to have to make a choice. It's going to be you're going to get rid of these mandates for these guys and bring them back on, or I'm going to go away. I'm leaving. And I thought, wow, that's the first time I've heard anybody that's actually been vaccinated that's saying, look, you're going to have to get rid of me too, because I don't stand for this. That's
well, I like what he's doing, because if we look, you can take that and run with it if you want to dig your heels in on the anti-vax thing. And
but it's not about anti-vax. That's it.
But this is my point. You can, I like what he's doing, because you can take that and run with it and say that it goes both ways. It's about a freedom.
That's exactly right.
It's about a freedom movement. And let's take it out of this context. Let's stop with that context. That's what I like about we can take it.
I like that too. I like that too, because
so is this based in DC?
He's taken the vaccination.
Is this company based in DC?
I'm not really sure where Cumulus is based out of. That's
Could
interesting.
Be New York.
Yeah. But there's going to be some type of a mandate that we're going to see come out of OSHA very soon. The Joe Biden's been promoting it quite a bit, where companies that have 100 people or more will be really forced into this, which really my understanding of the Constitution does not give the president the right to be able to put this kind of stuff out there. And it's interesting that they're going to do it through the businesses the way that they're doing. This is really ugly stuff. And when you start to take a look at the statistics that are out there, it's like, well, there's got to be another reason besides the COVID-19 that this is happening.
I really think it's 100% driven by the pharmaceutical industry. They're ones with all the money.
They have the money.
They're raking in the money. It's also why they obviously are dissing the whole conversation around IV, other medication, and then there's the monoclonal antibodies.
That's pretty close. I think that's
probably will get flagged for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact is that eventually, if this thing keeps going on, we won't be on there very much longer anyhow, because we won't even be able to say our names.
Right. So, right.
I mean, speaking of that, the National Recreation and Park Association is troubled by the word American. And so here we go. I mean, this is the thing. The National Recreation and Park Association's exhaustive 17-page equity language guide for parks and recreation professionals includes meticulous instructions on what words are acceptable or unacceptable in speaking about race, age, gender, sexual orientation, and ability.
Oh my God.
Let's see, from NRPA, this is National Recreation Park Associations. They use caution with this word. When we talk about parks and recreation serving communities, we're usually talking about how they serve all people, whether or not they are a U.S. citizen. Referring to residents or members of a community is a more inclusive approach. Likewise, avoiding using the term Americans generically for a group, because it limits the group to those who have citizenship status as Americans. So the national park wants you to use caution, avoid using the term Americans.
That doesn't surprise me. Unfortunately, that doesn't surprise me, but it sure does disgust me.
It does. And I just spent some great quality time in our national parks a few weeks back. And boy, I tell you, how wonderful that we have these national parks. And at the same time, I started to think about how much land the United States government owns in all of these states. And when I think about the fact that I don't trust the federal government, I don't trust government in general, but it makes me wonder, what's going to happen here? I don't know. There seems to be a conflict in my mind when I think about, I love the fact that we're preserving these areas.
Yeah, that's very important. I think.
At the same time, they're owned. And we're hearing a lot of woke stuff regarding our national parks, and it's concerning to me.
Nah, I know. But at the same time, if this was 10 to 20 years ago, if we talked about the parks, I think we'd both be like very favorable about it because it's preserving our natural resources. And if left to greedy people, they're going to torch it. Probably, rake all of our, who knows, flatten our mountains and drain our rivers and all
who
that
knows
stuff.
I
know
you're right.
But our government, unfortunately, has gotten so big. It's inevitably gotten very corrupt.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Yeah, I still keep thinking, how do we reform our government? I think about this all the time. I mentioned last week that it would be really cool if us independent podcasters could kind of get a little bit organized to certify ourselves as holding each other accountable. Hey, this is real news. They're sharing real stuff and rate each other. And of course, therefore, we also have the incentive to get better and better at our craft. And so I think about this with the government. Can we reform our government by simply everybody jumping on board a third party and really draining the swamp, so to speak? Can it be done? You're more astute at this than I am, government stuff. Do you think that it's possible?
It's happened in our history before. We've actually seen inflection points in our history. When our country started, there weren't Democrats and Republicans, but we did have a party system that evolved and formed, and the Democrats, actually the father of the Democrats was Andrew Jackson, which that happened in the late 1920s and the early 1930s, and the father of the Republican Party was Abraham Lincoln, which happened as a response to what the new Democrat Party was doing, and so we've seen that type of thing happen. I mean, gosh, the Republican Party was formed almost 100 years after the beginning of our country. So these parties have not been around since the beginning of our history, and we know that other parties can happen, and they usually happen during very serious turmoil within our country. So it seems like, you're right, Barry, that our timing right now seems to be ripe for something like that to happen. And when you look at what's happened in Congress, boy, it's just like inactivity. Nothing is happening. It's so frustrating.
I saw a poll where people like the distrust of Congress or the trust of Congress was something in the single digits.
It is something. It's been that way for several years now, as a matter of fact. And really, when you take a look at what the leaders are saying, it's absolutely ludicrous. And here's something. We brought this up last week, but I heard it again this week from Joe Biden, actually, where last week it was Nancy Pelosi saying regarding the $3.5 trillion bill that, hey, you guys in the media aren't doing a good enough job of selling this. And Joe Biden this week was in an interview, and I didn't get the whole story, but apparently he was being asked questions about the border, about inflation, which is out of control. I spent $300 this week at the the store and I didn't even have a full cart full of stuff. I had one of those tiny little carts. You know how you get the mini cart? I got a mini cart. It was $300.
Oh my God.
Asking him about that. And at the end of and some other things too, at the end of the interview, he got mad at the reporter and said, you didn't ask me good enough questions. And it's like, well, what? These are the things that are happening.
Hey, by the way, this is why I started that conversation with saying that us independent podcasters and stuff need to get at least a little bit organized, because media is very complicit in this entire problem.
Right.
You know, not holding
that's right.
politicians' feet to the fire, which is pretty much their only job. So that's why I said that. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, but that's appropriate, because that is what's happening. And you get a couple of guys like us that just, I mean, we're not professional journalists, but we have burning questions that are pretty obvious, that are just smacking us right in the face. That was like, hey, wait a second. I just spent $300 and I got like 6 things.
Yeah.
What gives? I went to the gas station and it's like $100 to fill up my tank now. I can't go anywhere. You know, you talked about coming in and making the rich pay their fair share, and here, I'm not rich, but I'm having pass
that $600 thing.
Yeah, so you didn't raise my taxes, but you raised all the prices all over the place. And so, what are we gonna? It is the same. At the end of the day, it impacted my bank account because of the decisions that you made. And I'm tired of hearing every time, like, well, you know, I'm sure they've got a line for inflation. Well, that just proves that Joe Biden's plan is working. You know, like, really? Okay, whatever. I mean, and now we're hearing that we're going to see supply chain shortages, according to Pete Buttigieg, into next year. And so I was at the store, and there's a few things. It's not like there's empty shelves here in California, so that's good. But there are a few things that are pretty hard to find. Now, one of them is the type of razors that I like, which are made by Procter and Gamble. And they're actually saying that the Procter and Gamble just came out recently and said there's going to be some serious shortages on our products, and those are basically home, like your body care products are going to be a problem, and it's coming up already.
I wonder if they said that to spur sales, because I bet you every Procter and Gamble product that came right off the shelves like within an hour, because I know how Californians especially are. Oh my God, the fear. Run out there and grab all your crap.
So here's the thing, Barry, is that I get the Mach 3 razor, which are usually the expensive ones. You got the 3 blades on it and everything. And you get this pack of there's like 4 like cartridges of 4 in there. And it's usually that was about $15. That's a lot of money for razors. Okay. So yesterday I got the last one, and it was just one thing instead of 4, and it cost $15.
You gotta be kidding me.
No, I'm not kidding you.
So you gotta look on Amazon. They gotta have some razors. You're not gonna get your Mach 3 probably.
I don't want razors from China.
But listen to this. Here's a story for you that you're gonna hate, I guess. I met my buddy and client Brian, the electrical safety guy. We met at the tavern on Route 42 in Parma yesterday.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And they have Taco Tuesday. They have these really good tacos, and they're like $3 a piece on Tuesday. And they're big.
Wow.
And
my mouth is watering.
We had 2, both of us, we sat down. If I recall correctly, had 2 Bud Light drafts. Then an appetizer, order of tater tots. We're going all health food here. And we split them. And then we got a pitcher of Bud Light, because it's like, we could get a pitcher. Okay, cool. Then we got 2 tacos a piece. And then I got another taco, and we got another pitcher of Bud Light. Our bill was $28.
Whoa. That is
dude,
amazing.
I go out to Cleveland Heights. I go out to lunch and my bill's $28 by myself.
Exactly. God, that is I mean, I would be there every Tuesday.
I couldn't believe it.
Pretty cool. I like that. It's reminding me
Parma. That's Parma, man.
Nickel hot dog night. Remember when they had that at that bar?
Yeah, and they would be like little pieces of bone in it.
I think I got a toenail in mine. Oh, then the next day we'd be all green and sick.
Yeah, and equally bad was that nickel beer night.
Oh, it was terrible.
That bar that was like in a basement.
Yeah,
remember?
Yeah, I do. It was like instant headache. You'd have a hangover as soon as you drank the beer.
Yes, it was awful. What kind of cheap beer was that? I remember.
It was. I think it was like old. What was it? Old Style or something like that.
Maybe Old Milwaukee or something.
Old Milwaukee.
One of those cheap beers.
Tasted horrible, and the hot dog was. I don't know what was in that thing, but it was a nickel.
Yeah, what's this crunchy thing in my hot dog?
It's worth it because it was a nickel.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, but hey,
we gotta wind up.
Yeah, well, let's do it.
Yeah. Okay. I've got one final thing. I'm just going to throw it out. If you heard about this, it was kind of big yesterday. FBI raids a $15 million DC mansion of Russian oligarch and Putin ally Oleg Deripaska, who has ties to former Trump campaign. Somehow they tied it to Trump. Has ties to former Trump campaign chair Paul Manafort, ex M16 spy and ex M16 spy Christopher Steele. So I don't know. You didn't hear about that? It was kind of a.
I'm not surprised about any of that. No, I didn't hear about it. But anything that they can do to impugn Trump and dust off that Russian. I mean, that's a
Russian angle,
theory.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
That's pretty crazy. Yeah, that's still alive. The Trump derangement syndrome is still going on, and
it's amazing.
You know, they
need
that's
it.
all they got. Yeah, they absolutely do.
Yeah. Well, okay. On that note, wow, it's Wednesday. I keep thinking it's Friday, but I know. To me, it is Friday.
Hey, man,
I'll call you.
It felt like Friday all morning to me.
Oh, good. It's beautiful here. I'm sure it's beautiful there. I'll call you from vacation, tell you
I love it.
Going. All right, dude.
Sounds good. Oh, wait, let me just conclude with this. I think this is our
it's the last
episode of the season, right?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Congratulations
season
to us.
in the can.
Next week. We are in season 5, man.
How about that? Congratulations. It's been a beautiful run, man.
It has. And I think we're getting better all the time.
I do too.
All right, buddy.
Barry.
Love you, bud.
Love
See you next week.
Take care.